I feel like I've always known what I've wanted to be since I was a child, as long as I remember myself. I'm an only child, contemplative, a lot of time on my own. I feel like what I'm doing now is just a sort of amplified version of what I've always been doing, which is a lot of walking and observing. My name is Anastasia Samoylova. I'm an artist and photographer based in Miami Beach. I was born in the south of Russia, closer to Georgia than to Moscow. I studied environmental design, and we used to build models of spaces by hand. So everything was physical, and it needed to be recorded for critiques. So I picked up a camera. Well, actually, my mother took out a one-year loan to get me one of the early digital cameras, and it was a 5-megapixel camera that I still have somewhere, and it just blew my mind. We did 5 years of painting, sculpture, and then all those exercises that trained you to think about the medium itself channeled its way into my photography, which is very much concerned with space. So any image you see of mine is a bit meta. You can't take it at face value. There were many transitions in my life. The transition from a small town in southern Russia, where I knew everybody, and then again coming to Miami is another major shift. Arriving in Miami in 2016 and starting to explore the city by foot confirmed all of my suspicions about the idea of a construct of a place. And my entire life has been the analysis and reconsideration of various constructs. And then coming to Miami, it was again this sort of the deconstruction of an illusion that was perfect for my work, very problematic for me as a citizen or an inhabitant of a place where you really question how you can put your roots down when it's so vulnerable climatically and so prone to, as we now see, to gentrification and all these other factors that make it difficult to live here. I pack many layers into my images, and they're meant for slower visual consumption. So that's a very deliberate act on my behalf, a gesture and of an approach to allow these spaces and the people an ability to express themselves. There's definitely the decisive moment aspect of it, Cartier-Bresson's term. I watch for the alignment of shapes, so the formal elements of the composition come first. Most of the time, it's location-driven. So I see a space, I position myself, and then unless the composition is already there and it says everything it needs to say, I often wait for the right moment. It's much slower than a typical street photographer. They're more of a haiku to a quick-paced poem. So the mixed media works that I continue to make is still dependent on my photography. So my work in collage uses the source imagery that I create in the streets. But what the painting and mixed media allows me to do is to bring it back to how I remember the scene, but then paint allows to take it even further away from that highly descriptive quality that photography has. Being in Miami as an immigrant, first-generation immigrant, is wonderful. I'm one of everybody with an accent. It's easy to blend in that way. I don't believe Miami is a melting pot. We haven't all congealed. We're all very different. But there's a shared understanding of what it means to be a first-generation immigrant. I found my community here somehow. And it's not like I'm feeling in this deep feeling of belonging. I think being an artist comes out of a feeling of not quite belonging. Here in Miami, having people come from similar catastrophic governments and situations, there's this shared trauma that is very healing, and so much beauty comes out of shared trauma. And that's what I love Miami for, first and foremost. And then It's the landscape. It's the truly sublime natural landscape that looks and feels like it can take over any minute. Here, it certainly feels like this can all be just wiped out in an instant. And that makes you question why we're here.